right. Let's
This is
go
my
ahead
first.
and get this thing going. T. Smith, how we doing, man?
Good, good. How are you?
I I'm good. I'm good.
Well,
Yeah. And I mean, why beat around the bush about it? I mean, one of the things we're here to, pretty much the main thing we're here to talk about today is causes of racial unrest and kind of like the current climate that we're in right now. Because I've noticed some of the stuff, you know, just to let everybody know, the reason we set this up in the first place is because you had posted something on Facebook. Um, you seem like you're just trying to get people to have a conversation that would actually be willing to just listen. And I know that is frustrating because of you're not asking for much. And yeah, I kind of wanted to get your thoughts behind, you know, why you did that post and you know, how things have been going for you during this time.
so one, I would say what's going on is exhausting. It is exhausting. Um, and I would say it's been exhausting, but we still have, I think, work to do. And the reason why I posted it is because, every time it seems circular that we have an event like this. I mean, 2014 was Michael Brown, right? And then the world went nuts, and we saw and these questions were brought up and all of that. And um, but nobody really talked. Nobody really sat and said, "Hey, let's have a conversation." So my post was all about instead of us just instead of us just posting and getting stuck on the corners, we actually go out and talk to somebody who may have a different opinion
Mm,
and not on and not even different opinion, a different world view, and not just talking on the chat because I don't think that gets it done. I
no,
think talking in person, face to face, and really getting to see what that person is drawing on and why the reactions, whether good or bad, because there's people that are, about from the police side of things, which I can understand. There's Candace Owens fans there, and there's people that are posting that are tired, and there's people that are posting that are, way out there, the opposite way. So I really think this is where the change is going to happen,
yeah,
but by people getting together and
yes,
talking and beating breaking down walls, one by one, and it's exhausting, but we had to do it.
yeah. Um, do you find yourself being more exhausted uh, now with everything that's been going on compared with past events, or is this just like you're sitting here like, well, damn, here we go again?
Yeah, it's I don't know. I think the full the enormity of it. Of course, I'm tired of being at my house. I'm tired
Yeah,
of, our kids stop school early into where we have this completely new routine. But it's been 4 months of that, so I'm just, kind of normally tired from that. But I think the enormity of for some people, and now we're into now we're into a different generation, right? Because the kids in 2014 that were in high school are now in college, and those kids that in 2014 that were in elementary school are now in high school. Now with the whole Michael Brown incident, I know we can dive into that. But 4 years later, they had the full on video of
mm,
George Floyd. The whole thing from beginning to end is very. Only thing we miss is how he got on the ground, but that's something completely different than 2014, which we didn't have.
yeah, yeah. Um, is part of the exhaustion around it the fact that there's got to be fucking video evidence for people to even realize the shit's happening?
Yeah, and I think the exhausting part of it is to the part that wears me out is that there's all these distractors from what the point is. You
Mm,
know what I mean? There's all um the the whole point is, if we're talking about racial injustice, we're talking about how we police, don't distract it by a few knuckleheads, right? Just as
yeah,
though the police officers want to say, well, don't judge us all by that guy,
yeah,
um that's, I think, what the exhausting part is. Even say kneeling, and athletes kneeling, right? The
yeah,
whole point was to bring awareness. It had nothing to do with the flag, but people have turned it into a patriotic issue when it's not. It was nothing. It had nothing to do with that. Even though the person who started kneeling got it from a patriot. So go figure. Got the
right.
idea from a picture. Go figure. But that's what I think the exhausting part is, to kind of bring everybody back. Here's what we're talking about. No, here's what the issue is. True, but here's what the issue is right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, hey, remember back when people were saying that this is bullshit and he got blackballed from the league and like all this and that. It's just like,
Right,
yeah, like that we
right,
still need to be talking about this.
right. No, I think you're exactly right. It's and not only do we need to be talking, and I know it's overplayed, but then we need to go out and we need to vote, and and for sure November has consequences for sure, but your local stuff has consequences.
Yes.
In
You know,
Nevada, we got a knucklehead, who just um she just stepped down from her kind of like second in charge of the city of Las Vegas for
yep,
some stuff that she had said, against affirmative action. And reportedly she had said, I think, that white lives matter, and some other stuff, um but it's time for her to go. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And it's been time for her to go. It's been time for her to go.
Yeah.
So
That is actually something that I've been opening my eyes up a lot more about lately is the involvement at the local level.
mhm,
And it's something that it's not a glamorous thing. It's not something that you just go out there and like make a post about and then something changes. Like this is something to where like people like you and I go out and we see who's in charge of the city,
right.
and then we do our best to hold them accountable for what they're saying and what's showing up in the city. And
Mhm.
frankly, I've been part of the issue of not putting too much emphasis on the local level and just really looking at it from like, well, I'm going to vote for like president and like a couple other people that I might
Mhm.
recognize. And that's not a way um that's not a way to even have a chance within a system that's already messed up.
Right. And the local level is not sexy either.
No.
You see you see the school board meetings, and you'll see, the city council meetings on, channel 1.5 or 2.2, and it's very vision. And it seems like all they're doing is chatting and chatting, but there's real action that's happening. I mean, some of these inner city people, and I grew up in the inner city, and I didn't realize this until later, but hold your local person for getting a new park. Oh,
Mm,
and say public comment. We would like a park here, and you could start there, and then you work your way up to other things that you have issues with. But you could start with a park. You
yeah.
could start with them saying, "Hey, how about rezoning? Don't rezone. Quit rezoning. My corners for liquor stores. Quit rezoning them for liquor stores.
Yeah.
How about commerce? If you can sell liquor there, then you could sell something else there.
Yeah. And
So
this is something that I'm recognizing too. Like I've known you for now half my life, because we met,
yeah,
damn dude, holy shit. We met freshman year at BG.
yeah,
Um
shoot, yeah, I was 17. Holy cow! Because I didn't turn 18 till September.
okay.
Holy cow!
Yeah. So,
Crazy.
something that I've been thinking about during this time is the, the when it comes to like white people and specifically not believing that this shit goes on, not believing that this shit happens.
Right.
eh, A large part of it is coming back to what we were talking about at the beginning, is just not having the discussion, not
Right.
having the discussion with other people. And I realize even in this moment that I haven't even, it's not like we text all the time, but you're
Mhm.
still somebody I consider a friend from college. But
Mhm.
like I don't know much about what life was like for you growing up.
Okay. Ryan, I'll answer this too, though. It's also a difficult conversation to have.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because you may end up unpacking some of the stuff that you didn't know you
Yeah,
have in there. So I cut folks credit. Now, when it's an offer and you don't take me up on the offer, I think that's on you. But what you have taken me up, so I appreciate it. But I think it is a very, very difficult conversation to have because the first thing you're going to say is, no, I'm not like that. You know what I mean? No, that's not me. It's not how I grew up. I love everybody, or I see everybody for who they are. And you're like, ooh, hold on. Maybe I haven't always done that,
right.
You're like, ooh, okay. But look, okay, let's go ahead and fix it. Now
Yeah,
that you have the information, go ahead and fix it. And it's all good. You know what I mean? It's all good. Still love you. But um, I think early on started on. Now I didn't realize until I started unpacking my own stuff, and
mhm,
I've been fortunate with a great boss, and she's all about you kind of figuring out yourself so you can lead other people.
yeah,
And so I'm an assist. So for your people to know, I'm an assistant principal at a high school. So and I'm over athletics. So it's kind of like I'm over teachers and coaches and leading change within our building. So until you figure yourself out, you can't lead other people.
true.
So we're unpacking everything. So why are you the way you are? Why are you the kind of leader the way you are? And it went back early on where I went. It's funny, and I talked to my mom about this not too long. I finally got the courage to. So she put us in after she got divorced with my dad. She put us in this private school, and it was the worst experience ever. It was terrible. It's terrible. And she said the reason why she put us in there in that school is because the inequality in education. That when she was younger, when she moved to a different neighborhood, she realized that the education wasn't the same. So she wanted us to have that opportunity, and it was terrible. It was terrible. It was a private school. We couldn't afford a uniform. I was getting paddled every day. I remember nothing from that school.
Mm,
Remember nothing from that school. And Ryan, here you go. So the original question was how we started unpacking this was tell me about it was at this it was actually at Harvard. It was at this lecture and they wanted us to divulge our first experience, positive experience of reading in the classroom. So I went all the way back and I was like, wasn't that great? Wasn't third grade? Wasn't third grade? Everybody's second grade, third grade. I remember the book, and I remember the teacher. Wasn't then. That's all I remember was that terrible school. And then we moved. We ended up moving to Florida, and there, man, I don't remember exactly where it was. Where we lived, it was in Fort Lauderdale, and we lived. Man, we lived in the worst neighborhood you could live in. One of the worst neighborhoods you could live in
okay.
South Florida. But we went to school somewhere else, and very, very few minorities at the school. And the teacher, crazy enough, I told her I wanted to be a scientist. A little boy, I mean, I liked, you know, ant farms. I liked blowing stuff up. I mean, I was the king of the Mentos and Diet Coke experiments, right?
Yeah,
And I knew that was science, so I'm like, yeah, I want to be a scientist, like
yeah.
rockets and all that stuff. She was like, you really, really aren't smart enough. Yeah, true story. True story. I'll
A
never forget
teacher.
that. Yeah, I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. Um, and I'll tell you, it, and I'll tell you where that. So we'll go now. I'll go backwards to that. So
Okay.
then the next place is in the hood, and it was terrible. We used to fight. We would fight getting on the bus, fight getting off the bus. Nothing. I don't remember until anything positive happened until I moved to Cleveland, where there was a community that incubated their kids. Cleveland Heights, we kind of it's a it's a great neighborhood to grow up in. And the thing that I think is special about it is we kind of take care of our own, incubate each other there. And that's where I get my first positive experience of memory in school. It's fifth grade.
Wow.
It's fifth grade. So, going back to that lady and going back to some of that lady, and I think, really think is that, and I think we need to know now is that hurt people.
Yes. 100%.
You know, I mean, I probably crossed the line with a kid too.
Mhm.
Before I probably crossed, said something to a kid that shouldn't have, that I shouldn't have said, or I didn't think about it. Um, Especially before I did this whole unpacking of my stuff, is that hurt people, man. And for whatever reason, there was in that lady's head that third grade, right? Who checks a third grader on what they want to be?
Oh, this is supposed to be a time that you're uplifting like the spirits of a child. Like they can literally be
Right,
whatever the fuck they want to be.
right.
Who are you to tell a third grader that they're not
Third grade,
smart enough?
third grade, third grade. So yeah, and so there was for sure. I look at that, and there was for sure, prejudice in that woman. There's no
Right.
doubt about it. As a third grade teacher, I mean, yeah, come on.
Come on. Yeah.
Um, so so then it brings you to, we'll fast forward all the way to the historical talk, right?
Mm.
And I never really understood it, and I didn't really dive deep into my family history until probably college. And my dad always said, when we first started driving, he was as simple as this. He said, "Here's the thing, son. If you get pulled over by the police, and I don't care who or what kind of officer it is," he said, "I'd rather pay for a ticket than pay for a funeral." Done. I was good. That's the only talk I needed,
Yeah.
and I grew up pretty fortunate in that community. I didn't grow up. I think if we would have stayed in Florida with my mother and then never in Fort Lauderdale, I mean, that's where you see that percent of everything
Mm.
of not non-community policing, everything negative about a community that could happen happened there. And I don't know if I get that mentorship from my dad if I live in Florida with my mom. I don't
Ah.
know if I get that.
Okay. Where did you
Um
live before you moved to Florida? Was it in Ohio?
yeah, so Dayton. Dayton.
Okay, so you went Dayton to Florida to Cleveland Heights.
Yep, Dayton, shortstop in Cincinnati,
Okay.
Florida to Cleveland Heights. Yeah, my mom, she was gone. When she decided that she was done with my dad, she was done.
Okay. Gotcha.
So and I've been fortunate to have that. So what I think is, and I approach my job like this, there are people and there are kids that are less fortunate,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, and here's the thing, it could be a white kid too. You know what I mean? It could be a white kid too that needs to see some type of change.
Yeah.
And for the life of me, I don't understand is that, right, we ask our teachers, we ask our schools to reform, but as soon as you ask the you're being unappreciative of the service that they do.
As soon as you ask for what?
The police,
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
our policing,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? To reform or change. Or maybe, guys, let's look at this, let's do this a different way because it ain't working.
No.
It ain't working at all. Um you get a bunch of counter things, back to blue, this, that, and the other, which okay, I back to blue, but that's not what we're talking about. you
Correct.
know, it's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
We're talking about ways in which everyone and the way we do things should probably fit the 21st century and probably not the 60s.
No shit, man. Yeah,
you know,
it's so crazy that people have to they look at one thing and it's like, oh, I either have to be all in or all out. And
right,
it's like you can be objective about a situation. You can support police and you can also support people not getting their lives ruined by police.
right, right. Right, exactly. And I was a proponent of, I think it was Cory Booker, what he did when he was the mayor of Newark, that he required those police officers to live in the city, or maybe, yeah, to live in Newark, to live in that city. So are really now a true member of the community.
Yeah.
You don't just police and leave and book it. I'm out to the other side of town. No, you live here. You work with the people. Hey, guess what? Now your kids play little league baseball with folks, so now they understand. And crazy enough, I think that may actually help policing. That now that they would see you as something different besides the uniform,
Yeah.
because they do hate the uniform.
Yes.
They do hate the badge. They don't hate the person, but they hate the uniform,
Yeah.
right? And then I think there's police officers who hate the people that they police. But
Yep.
if we can mirror that and bring them as real members of the community that they live in, that they voted for those city council people, you can't tell me that type of policing would not work. That type of policy wouldn't work.
Dude, it kills me when some of the stuff that's being proposed, like, have you seen them talking about like defunding the police?
Right,
Like
right,
some of the like I know when people see that they freak out. I know when
right,
people see that they're like, "What? You want to get like who's going to watch us?" and like everything like that.
right.
And it's like you look into it and you see it's reallocating funds that are
Mhm.
unnecessarily going to the police department to go towards community programs that can be
Right,
then sent to calls where police don't need to go because they don't have the training because all they're going to do is make the situation worse.
right.
And it's like you see these we got to try something like doing a like putting together a bill that is going to be like, see, we fixed something, is not going to make the kind of change that is needed to be made, because to me it's a mindset thing.
Hmm.
It's a mindset of like us against everybody else. And if you are a person that has a badge and gun, you cannot be looking at the people that you're supposed to be protecting as the people that you are going to be fighting.
Right, right, right. Um, I agree with you with that defund the police um movement.
Yes.
And it is reallocating funds. It is. Ever since police officers have been able to purchase old military style equipment, you know what I mean? And not at one point in our country's history have we ever felt comfortable with the military being in neighborhoods.
No. Like
Because
dudes
it's just
are
not
wrapped up.
right. Right. They look like the military. No, that's the police right there. Oh, okay. You
Right.
know, um, you
Like,
know,
yeah,
uh,
all right.
but I think that if they had serious training, hey, because with our teachers and us, they make us take racial bias training.
Mm,
How come the police can't? You know, you're right. How come police are going out to calls for uh, well checks on somebody who may have suicidal ideation? Yeah, send a cop out, but send them out with a counselor,
yeah.
somebody that is hired by law
Professionals, like
enforcement.
somebody that can diffuse this dude. Something happened out here a few years ago. This gentleman in El Cajon mentally had mental issues,
Hmm.
and I think it was his sister that had called, and she told law enforcement on the phone, like, hey, this is my, I think it was her brother, it is my brother, that he has these issues, just calling it out, like, hey, he's got this going on. And the police showed up and they started following this dude and trying to get him to comply. And it's just like, if you're not if you don't have de-escalation skills and you're just making the situation worse, like the dude, he had like an e-cigarette thing that he ended up like holding up really quick,
Mm,
killed him.
right,
And it's like, damn, man. And you're going to get the
right.
people that go, well, he shouldn't have been holding up an e-cigarette. And it's like, really, is that what we want to do? Is that how we want to answer this? Like, it's now the person's fault that they're dead.
Right. It's got to. I mean, I was telling my wife. last night, and it seems like with these issues, and I think I'm hoping it's just a small minority of people that for some reason with these issues, that whole, I forget who it was. Was it Newton? Every reaction has an equal and opposite reaction. Should have equal and opposite reaction. Is that Newton? That was one of those guys.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
one of those scientists who said it, right? But it's straight physics. So if hey, here you go, let's bring it to George Floyd. If I'm going to a call about a fake counter $20 bill, hello, I should be like, why are you calling me about this?
Yeah.
And asking some questions and doing that, and then done. It shouldn't have costed him his life.
No. At
You know,
the most, a ticket.
it, right,
At the
right.
absolute most. Like, come on. Like, that should have been worst case scenario. It should have been a ticket.
Yeah, yeah. And even those officers don't realize. I mean, I was talking to my brother about this. I said, how about this? Those officers went out there, right?
Yeah.
And they put themselves at jeopardy, which they always say, I put myself at jeopardy when I go to a call
Mhm.
for 20 bucks. For 20 bucks. Instead of, lady, you know what? Or whoever it was who called, we'll take your complaint. Come down to the, station, we'll get your ID number against the gentleman and let that be on. It's 20 bucks.
Yeah.
It's 20 bucks. We'll know where to find him. You said two, you think he's been doing it for a while? Okay. We got him. And then handle it that way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's every reaction needs to have a equal and opposite reaction.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah. And it's just the reactions that are happening right now are getting people killed.
right, right.
That,
Because
that's the
and,
sad.
and, and there's and I get it. And there's we can go all the way back to inherent bias. We can go all the way back to what old school, and that's the funny thing is that I was never ever taught to respect the police. Never ever taught that. You need to respect officers. You respect people in the uniform. This, that, and the other. Never taught that. I was taught to be afraid of what they could do to you.
And this is the distinction because white families do not have that same experience.
Yeah, it goes, right. It goes all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way back from even my grandfather not being not being allowed to vote, right? And then the number one guy who kept that stuff in check was the sheriff. It was Little County in Georgia. That's the number one thing. And so, and we know that when, and this is just what we're talking about, right? So we know that when the Klan comes back big time in the 20s, that they go into, they all of a sudden become local politicians, they become judges, they become police officers, they become part of the local government. And so this is when people don't understand like systematic racism. Well, here you go. If you can't vote, you can't serve on a jury. When there's a crime that comes up by trial, guess what your peers look like? People who can vote. When you can't vote, you sure as heck can't be you can't be a judge or you can't be a civil servant. So when we talk about a system, that stuff, and it's crazy because that my grandfather's still alive. It's not that long ago. A living primary source example
Wow.
right then and there, to
Yeah.
where, hey, you know what? We're gonna my his sister was married on the back porch of the city hall that they grew up in. They weren't allowed to go inside. So the justice of the peace told them to go around the back, and then he married her and her husband. They were still alive. That's living primary source of that evidence right there. And so then you got it. It's easy. So I better for sure he's going to teach his kids that, and then his kids kind of grew up in it in the 60s and 70s, and then it continues to spiral. So when you talk about generations of people that are frustrated, and then now I have kids, right, and asking why, because it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't make sense to them. They look at their friends. They're like, it doesn't. This is confusing.
Yeah.
you know this is really confusing. So baby, I'm confused too. Tell my kids that I'm confused too, but things are going to change. We talk about systematically, and that's just a airbrush. That's just a breeze over it.
Yeah.
And imagine now, some people that are still living in that type of conditions today, because they are where those type of folks, who, where folks haven't moved, have been in the same neighborhoods, the same communities that have that have that have been terrorized by certain people, for generations.
Yeah.
How do they feel? How
Right.
do they feel?
Also, from the outside looking in, we can see it as really messed up. And at the same token, people that are terrorizing those groups, they see it as normal.
Right.
They don't see anything wrong with it because of hearing it from, you know, the grandpa said it to the dad who said it to the son. And when you grow up believing this, because what else would you believe if you have your dad and your grandpa and everybody else around you saying that this is the way it is?
Hmm. Yeah. That that's where the hard. That's where we got to get our hammer and sickle out to tip away
Yeah.
at that stuff,
And I
because
think that's
those
where,
people still have that thought with way much more information today,
yeah,
way much more access to information today. That some of these folks are having still have that thought. People taking still who what was it after it was going viral? Folks taking pictures with their knees on somebody's neck right after.
yeah.
Like, come on,
Like
come on, that should be
you think it's funny.
right, right.
Like
That should
that's
that
funny to you.
that should never happen.
Oh, it's
That
just a
shouldn't happen.
joke.
Right, right.
Not really that
Um,
much of a joke.
and I will say this: we cannot. I don't think we can turn around. We can't. And I think also, and from what I've seen and what I've heard during some of these protests, we also have to. We also cannot be what we dislike. We also can't fight hate with hate. We can't.
Right.
We
Right.
can't do that. And I don't think the majority of people out there. I mean, there's right wing extremists getting arrested just as quickly as 45 says Antifa is getting arrested out there.
Yeah.
There were four of them here that were charged with impersonating police officers, and during the protest. But I'm talking to the folks that are
Uh,
out there peacefully doing it. We can't. They cannot become the same thing. They can't fight it with hate. They can't fight it with hate. The answer is not to hate uh, white people. The answer isn't to hate police at
right.
all. The answer's got to be to make them better.
Yeah. We need to, yeah, it's education, man.
Yeah.
It's understanding how, like, if you have no comprehension of the system because you've been in it and you can't see the forest from the trees, then how do you ever, like, you don't think the system exists. If the
Right.
system has benefited you for so long, and but those benefits don't seem like benefits to you because you haven't had an easy life, but it's not, the issue isn't about having an easy or a hard life. Everybody goes through shit. Everybody goes through their own stuff. Um, but
Sure.
there are some people that don't have added issues
Right.
because of the color of their skin.
Oh, you talk about white privilege?
Nah, a little bit.
But here's the thing, though. I agree, because you know what, and I think the word privilege. I was watching one of those Oprah specials, right?
Mhm.
And the word privilege. I forget who said it. I think it was a lady who did the way they see us. That privilege is like we say privilege. Well, oh no, hold on. Everybody's worked, and my family, I haven't had it easy, and there's no silver spoon, just because of what privilege brings. All their privilege, and they must drink their tea with their pinky up.
Yeah.
No, it's here you go. It's the privilege can be summed up as, to me, as especially when we talk about white privilege, is that um is that if we're both rowing a boat,
Mhm.
If we're both rowing the boat, and I'm on one side of the river, you're on the next side of the river. We don't know. We just jumped in. We start rowing. There's a stronger current, all right, that's on, let's say, your side or my wife's side. There's a stronger current that is pushing you along, and there's a current that I'm fighting against. That's
Yeah.
what it's. That's all of what it is. Because here's the thing: there's I have privilege too. My kids are going to have privilege. We all have some type of we all have some type of privilege, you know, over someone over the next man. I'm privileged that I can take a vacation, privileged that I had opportunity to go to college. I'm privileged that that I have a decent job and that I didn't lose my job during COVID-19. That's a privilege that I have
Yeah.
you know so I think if folks kind of saw it that way and
Yeah.
kind of took down the barriers of, well, I don't have white privilege, I've worked so hard for what I got and everything like that. I'm like, yeah, I get you, but the black dude that's probably isn't living next to you, living 3 towns over,
Yeah.
is still stuck and works twice as hard as you do.
Mm.
you know and that's the crazy thing to me. And even kind of going back to like affirmative action or something like that, people don't realize the people who benefited the most from affirmative action were white women. They broke through the ceiling before anybody else. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it wasn't like that. Oh, all of a sudden, affirmative action made it now all of a sudden for African Americans who aren't, they're going to get jobs before. No, white women broke through the ceiling way more,
Yeah.
way a lot, a lot more, quicker than their minority counterparts ever did,
And
including
affirmative action,
black men.
it almost had a negative impact because now when black people get certain positions, like the thought from some white people is like the only reason you got that job is because of affirmative action, and it's just
That's your privilege. That,
what.
that's me. That's me. That's their privilege. That's part of something that somebody white would never ever have to answer to. They got that job because of affirmative action.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, and it's just this. Yeah, the word privilege is looked at by a lot, especially when especially when we're saying white privilege, is looked at by a bunch of white people as a negative thing, and instead of just a thing.
yeah,
Like it's a thing. It's a thing that exists. Like it doesn't make you inherently racist that you have privilege.
right,
Like
right,
that's not what it is. And I think so. Like I listened to this book recently called White Fragility, and I was just like, holy shit! Like
right.
it. it I think back to some of the discussions that I've had with some of my friends, and
Mm,
it details like the exact reaction that white people are going to have to certain things that are said and certain points
right.
that are brought up, and it's like clockwork, man. It's like, holy shit, I've had this same discussion with another white person before, and they've
Yeah.
gotten offended and they've shut down or they've walked away or they've changed the subject, but they'll never actually sit down and be with their own thoughts about the whole thing.
You know what? But here's the thing: you can do some good with your privilege. I don't care what you are, what color you
Yeah.
are. Without privilege, do some good with it. Don't just sit. Don't just sit. On your high horse saying, "Oh, I don't have privilege or anything," and I've done, and you just have soaked it all in. I think that's what people get frustrated about.
Yeah.
I think that especially even if you're going with the whole, even if we talk about nowadays, right? Today, and I think this is the most moving thing about what's been going on is because it's been a diverse crowd. It's been a
Yes.
diverse crowd. It's going to look a whole lot differently as a white male or as a white female that's getting shot and beaten, the hell beaten out of them by the police, than it would some of my black brothers and sisters. So I'm gonna go out there with them, and I'm gonna prove, and I'm gonna use my privilege to go out and say, hey, this right here is enough. Enough is enough.
Mhm.
Enough is enough. Um, yeah, it's I don't know. I think that's going back to the beginning of not an easy conversation to have when people talk about their privilege, and especially white privilege. And it's not made up. I mean, I think conscious people know that. I don't think we can. I don't think people should ever use it as an excuse to
Mhm.
why they haven't done something. Excuse me, without looking within first.
Yeah.
Um, I think that's what the Candace Owens of the world say. But it's there. Everybody has privilege. Just everybody has privilege. Everybody has privilege.
What are your thoughts on her?
On her, so I think she's a smart lady, but I think
Mhm.
people got to understand that she really distorts the truth a whole lot, and that she says numbers and she says facts, but she's looking at it a completely different way, than even what those statistics really mean. What those statistics really mean. I mean, for her to say that blacks were the most prosperous in the 50s, was is not true. I
No.
mean, there's a ton of things that started in the 50s for sure.
Mhm.
Post War II, GIs actually, who came home, the ones who came home, they actually did get their checks this time on after like World War One. People did that, but you understand that's when redlining began was in the 50s.
Dude, dude,
That's when redlining began.
that
And
was
great,
even
Motown
before
happened, but
that.
redlining began. You said
That
what?
redlining started out as a result from the Great Depression.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
because
right.
like, shit.
Suburban America wasn't actually actualized for African Americans in the 50s.
No,
We weren't allowed that.
you could
And
go
then
fight a war for this country and come back and not get a house.
right, right. That Levittown, the massive expansion in New York City, blacks weren't allowed to live there. They weren't allowed to live in those places. And so when and don't get me wrong, there's definitely prosperous. I think that's the amazing thing about America, the American dream, no matter what, through each season or each trial era that we've gone through,
Yeah,
that the people that have been oppressed have some sort of cultural achievement that's taken place.
yeah.
That happens during the 50s, but you also have we get during this, because what did she say the other day? I was listening to something that she was on, which I struggle to do anyway. She was saying that it wasn't until LBJ and a Great Society which brought black folks more dependent and down on the government, which is not true, because Robert, before the 68 election, before LBJ was going around and doing this whole poverty tour,
Mhm.
and he went to Appalachia, and he went to the Mississippi Delta, and he went to Central California, and he was going around and meeting with folks, trying to figure out how can we wage this war on poverty. And there are, crazy enough, there are less African Americans living in poverty today than there was in the 60s. I don't know if you know what I mean. It hasn't gotten worse, and since the 60s, there's been more Republican presidents than there have been
Yeah.
Democrat presidents. So what she says, she just kind of, I don't know. I think she's in it to make money, and I think that it sells in that popularity. I mean, I don't know what the difference between her and Don Imus
Mhm.
and any kind of shock jock that people just listen to because they want to hear what they're going to say next is. Could she be a whole lot more powerful and have a lot larger of an influence? Um, absolutely, absolutely. But I think she's really interested in making waves and making money, because the more stuff that she says like that, the more stuff that she detracts from the point of, what did she say? George Floyd was not good, and he kind of had it coming.
Just yeah,
Uh,
just basically talking about like just trying to equate him as to a criminal, and it's
right,
like who my follow up to this is who gives a fuck if he's a criminal or not?
right,
Like he doesn't deserve. Does are you saying that everybody in his position that might have a past, like we all have past, we all have
right,
stuff that we've messed up on, we all have things that we, you know, not all of us have gotten caught for the illegal shit that we've done. We've
right,
all done some illegal shit, I would say, at some
right.
point.
I agree.
You know,
I agree.
does that mean we deserve to die?
The separation is very far and few between. Us and criminality. It's not that much of a difference. All you got to do, hey, you know what? Here's what I asked. I wonder. I don't even know if she, anybody who thinks like her, ever actually sat and met with someone in prison and talked to them
Mhm.
and gotten their story.
Yeah.
Don't even worry about what's on TV, what we see people doing, but go to your local, go to your county jail, all right, and you get the stories from these people, and you tell me that somewhere along the way we couldn't do better by them.
Yeah.
And I get it. People make bad choices. They do every day. They do every day. But there's something along the way that we could have did better by some people. And
Yeah.
for her to just throw that and waste that away, I mean, she's just you know, that one's hard to explain to
Yeah.
me, because hey, here you go. She's from Connecticut. Living very privileged. I'm saying you're from Connecticut, and as I'm not trying to knock it, but your experience and your privilege is going to be a whole lot different than somebody who's living and she's not from Hartford, inner city Hartford. Is your experience from someone who grew up on the south side of Boston is going completely different.
Yeah.
Connecticut is the closest one I can think of, or in Harlem, New York, is going to be completely different.
Yeah.
So for her to tear people down like that,
Mhm.
I just don't. I That's what I don't understand. I don't get how you tear folks down because once again, she speaks out against people tearing her down because of her beliefs,
Right.
and she's got a following. And there's people who think that way. I disagree, wholeheartedly disagree. With what they believe in. I would like to hear her full on story before fully on because there's some reason why you think that way.
Right.
There's got to be some reason why you think that way and how passionate you are about it.
Yeah.
You know, but they lie. They be lying.
And making a lot of
They
money
be lying.
can make you seem passionate to people.
Right, right. Yeah. She's making, and that's the thing. And people have to understand. And of course, when we were growing up, it was like sticks and stones. They break my bones, right? But words do hurt. That was the biggest
Yes.
lie. I
Yes.
mean, I shouldn't say it. That was the biggest lie we were told next to Santa, right? Is that
What's that?
words do have power. The biggest lie next to Santa Claus.
Oh yeah.
I whisper because my kids are obviously, but words have power. Words
They
have power.
absolutely do.
Words have power, and that stuff,
Absolutely.
it means something when you say that. I have to be careful. I have to be careful when I'm watching the news and what I say, even if I am just venting. That I don't I don't want my kids to grow. I have to be careful. I have to be responsible to my kids. I have to be responsible to the kids and the population that I serve,
Yeah.
because the population I serve is at a breaking point with this stuff. There, especially with COVID and them being shut down, and and the I mean the community where my school is at has every demographic that you have, from large number of refugees in Las Vegas attend my high school, to we're 100% free and reduced lunch. So I have to be careful, and we have to be careful what we say and what we do, because you're right. And I think the biggest thing is the Candace Owens of the world, who said, "Oh, well, you're teaching your kids to be victims." No, not ever. I've never blamed anybody for anything. Never have. But I also need to teach. Hopefully, don't have to. Well, I also need to say, I think it's very, very dangerous for me to send my kids out in the world not knowing that they're black children, that they're going to be treated completely different, that they may have that, and I
Yeah.
have to prepare them for that. Not to be a victim though, because they're going to be great. They're going to strive.
Yeah.
Everybody's kids are their hopes and dreams. When they're born, and nobody sits there and says, "Well, here's what we are and why we are is because of the white man." Nobody says that.
Yeah.
Nobody says that at all. But I'm going to for sure tell my kids that, hey, remember when you were little and all this was going on? I said, here, and if things haven't changed, I say, hey, here's when you get pulled over. You know what I mean? Here's what you need to do. Don't you move. Don't you move until that officer taps on your window. And then if you don't feel comfortable reaching for it, you ask them, could they get it? That's it. That's the conversation we have to have. But you have to, like I said, we have to be careful.
Yeah.
I don't know who she's careful to. Who is she responsible to? Herself, herself,
Yeah.
making money. And so when she says that, all she does is she's going to build up animosity on this side,
Yeah.
on our side that believes that, hey, we can do better,
Yeah.
right? Build up that animosity. And all she does, she invigorates the people who believe in her. So yeah, you know what? She's absolute truth. And I'm gonna share her video so all my friends can see that I got one black person who thinks like me, and that's just crazy to
Right, right. You know, there's a certain group of white people that are just loving these types of videos. Be like,
me.
see, this is all the truth that I need to keep thinking
All
this
the
way.
truth. All the truth. You never met, and the truth is, right, is that they've never met someone like her before. You don't know anybody. You don't have any friends like her. No.
Exactly.
Talk to me. Talk to me. You see if I feel the same way. You know I don't. That's why you don't want to talk to me.
Exactly. Yeah. 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 You're
you
not
know,
echoing what they want to hear.
right, right, and her thing on slavery, which is like crazy because, and I hate that, when I thought what that is that, well, somebody else also said it too. You got to understand the United States perfected the system of slavery more than anyone else did. Every other places had the ideas of it, but not as a permanent status because they know eventually that those people who are you enslaving aren't going to do you any good.
Right.
Then eventually, that why would you keep them a slave for generations? They're not going to be productive in your society. So eventually, we're going to let them free. Matter of fact, you can marry one of our former slaves. It's all good. It's all good after that. No hard feelings. You lost the war, right? The United States. I mean, there was letters like the Willie Lynch letter talked about how do you keep. It was funny because when I was teaching my Black History class, how do you keep a slave a slave? He gives you like the blueprint for it. And it was funny because when I was in the classroom, it was for like 200 years or something like that, or 300 years. He said in the letter, it was like the exact year that I was teaching, the exact year I was still teaching. So the kids were like, "Whoa, wait a minute!"
Oh
But
shit.
But yeah, we perfected it to a point. And Willie Lynch was a slave. He was actually brought down. He was from Virginia, and he was brought to the Caribbean because of all the slave uprisings and rebellions that were going on, and people were having a hard time trying controlling their slaves. So man, he gave this whole list in his letter of what they need to do. You guys are having trouble. Here's what you need to do. This is what we do in Virginia, and I'm certain it's Virginia, and this is how you keep that going. And he did that, and we just perfected it better than anyone else. Anyone else did.
And
Anyone
I
else
don't
did.
think people want to believe that.
Yeah, because it was quote unquote so long ago. But when you think
Yeah,
about it, the United States is a baby country
it is.
compared to everyone else in the world. We're really really just getting started, and we're the longest experiment of this democracy too.
Yo, this is a big ass social experiment that has failed. So, well, failed for the majority. There's some people that are loving life, but it's
Oh yeah.
the majority are the ones that are living to paycheck, having extra issues every time they go outside. Like
Hmm.
there's some people that can have their whole lives protected because of the wealth that they've been born into.
Right, right, and for sure. What was all we needed? All the proof that we needed during that was with the college admission scandal, right?
The college admission scandal.
Yes, where all those folks were paying. What was that? Was it Felicity Huffman?
God,
Something
Aunt
like that.
Becky. Are you talking
Right.
about Aunt Becky from Full Health? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, what
Yeah.
the fuck? Like, are we really doing this? Like, oh my lord.
It's like, but that I wasn't shocked by that. I was surprised. That's what we knew, Ryan.
Yeah,
That's what we knew. We
yeah.
knew that certain people were going to have a certain kind of way of get in. How'd you get into here? How'd you get into BG? Well, Folks are alumni. Yeah, okay.
Right, right.
You
Yeah.
needed to use that card to get in the BG. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, my folks, their name is on the side of that building over there. So kind of just got in.
Right, right. So I mean, it's it's crazy to me. You know, that's what we knew. We saw that act out in person. But you know what? There's no privilege. But our democracy couldn't be better. But everybody pulls themselves up by their bootstraps, and you know, it's just we're a meritocracy. We're a merit-based system. Okay, for some, for some,
For some.
and what we use in my thing, what I tell my teachers all the time in education, all means all. Do you believe all kids can learn? It's either yes, or no,
Yeah.
all. You believe
Oh,
all kids can learn. If all kids can learn, then I don't care what's going on in such and such houses, what their kids started off with, or problems you believe they can learn. Let's get down to their level and make them learn.
yes.
If you mean all means all, democracy, all, everyone gets a piece of this pie, then that means all, not some, not the few, not whether, not determine how you got here. You know, because it's funny. I did my genealogy. My folks have been here since like the 1700s. Found out ancestry.com. Been here long. We've been here a lot longer than a lot of folks.
Okay.
Start using that card.
Yeah. Be like, do you know how long you've been here? Because I do.
Yeah, I've been here. My folks have been here since like 1700s in
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ellis Island, nothing. Way before that. Way before that. 200 years before that.
Yeah, man. There's such a gap between the lived experience
Mm.
between black people and white people, and just you talking about the blueprint to enslave people, like that's some sick shit, and it's also some shit that's real. When you see the, what was it, Nixon and one of the people that worked for his administration, when they were talking about, you know how do you demonize a group of people,
Oh,
and it's just
yeah.
like, this is the president of the United States that has somebody working
Oh,
for him that is planning to demonize black people and hippies, because you throw the hippies in there to make it seem like you're not just demonizing black people. And then after slavery ends, you throw in the 13th Amendment so you can just round up a bunch of people that were former
right.
slaves, throw them right back into now legalized slavery. And it, like you said, like the system's been perfected here. Like it's still going on in 2020.
Yeah, and so you talk about the president, right? And here's the thing: the blueprint has already been laid out. The first step in that blueprint is you make sure that you depict the people that you're about to oppress. You make sure you show them not as being human beings.
Yep.
And so,
Yep.
what do you call them? You call them animals,
Yep. Racist
right?
shithole
They come
country.
here, right? Right? You say all of that stuff,
Yep.
and right. And so, because everybody knows to the at least everybody has some kind of moral compass, right?
Yeah.
But I know, at least I hope, I'm not going to treat, and even some cases, some people treat their animals. I'm not going to treat this person like an animal. I'm going
Yeah.
to treat them with dignity. They're a human
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
right? You go out to where you and I live now. People treat their animals. Some people treat their animals better than they treat human beings.
For real.
So once that happens, when you start in that language, and people understand words matter, right?
Yep.
As we already said. So when you say animals, rapists, thugs, when you're talking about people, or even I had to check somebody else who was commenting on mine about saying an investment. So these are people. These are people. DACA kids they're people. DACA kids are people. They're not numbers. These are real life people.
Yeah.
Real life people. Um, Once you begin that process of it, then that's how they get the ball rolling. And
Yeah.
you talk about 13th Amendment, you take every step of the way. I say for the African American experience, um, there's been a part of the fabric or our American system that has tried to check us, that put us back.
Yeah.
Of course, me being a history major, I know all this silly stuff like Crispus Attucks, the first person to die for the Revolutionary War, first person to die for the cause,
Yeah.
died in the Boston. Paul Revere didn't finish his ride. A freeman did. A black man finished his ride. Paul Revere got caught. You know, so the Revolutionary War happens. We have blacks fighting on
Yeah.
both sides, right? But then we have slavery that doesn't end. The Northern slave trade doesn't end until 20 or 30 years after, beginning of the 1800s.
Yeah.
Then you have the Civil War. We know blacks fighting, right? On those. Then you get throw the bone of the civil rights laws, the 13th through the 15th, right? But then you have the failed Reconstruction, Barrow, Ohio president, right? Because Grant, to get control of the Klan, Grant moved the U.S. Army to the South and had them stationed to the South to protect people. Right? Ruther B. Hayes, Fremont, which I know you're no fan of that town anyway, being a Marion guy, right? Fremont, right? He pulls the military out, and all of a sudden you get black codes, you get the KKK, you get all this stuff. You 1896 Plessy vs. Ferguson, folks backwards. Then you get the 20s, the Klan comes back. First movie ever shown in the White House was The Birth of a Nation,
Oh my God.
right?
Klan was the saviors.
It's the history, right? It's the history of America, right?
Yeah.
Birth of a Nation. And then, but in between it, we fight in World War One, we fight in World War Two,
Yeah.
right? Suffer under the Great Depression. We get moved back from World War Two because now all of a sudden, Jim Crow.
Yeah.
And so people, and that's what's crazy. And even people talk about my friends, somewhat on the other side, talk about states' rights and everything like that. And can the government do this? I said, segregation was outlawed in schools in 1954. I said, but you don't get integration. You don't get until Ruby Bridges. You don't get till Tennessee 9. You don't get till Arkansas. The Little Rock 9, to where folks are allowed to integrate schools, and then they had to the National Guard.
Mm.
So were we ever really supposed to be anything in America?
Yeah. And this is
Were we
where the
ever?
whole like legislation and we're going to pass a bill bullshit doesn't work.
Starts locally. Starts locally.
We've seen this shit happen time and time
Oh yeah.
again. There's so many examples. Oh yeah, we'll just do a bill. We'll just do a bill. We'll do a bill.
Right. It's like when I hear these talking heads, these national people, and then that's everybody talk about education. Well, guess what? The federal government isn't responsible for funding states' education. They're not. The state is.
Property
So
tax.
go to the state house. You
Mhm.
go to the state house, and that's where your fight for education is. You don't listen to what Betsy DeVos says. I mean, she's a clown,
Oh
right? She's a
God.
clown, but
Yeah.
her impact on education ain't gonna be that much. Ain't gonna be hardly anything.
Mm.
But what your local people are saying about how your local people are funding the education system, that is what matter. With your local police officers, your local people, that's what's going to matter. Are they going to put a park up? Are they going to make, I'll tell you one thing. I'm really happy. When I first moved to Vegas, our police department was they're paying out lawsuits left and right, and they corrected it. Now I really saw how they corrected it was that before, and this is Las Vegas Metro, before their police officers go out into their neighborhoods that they're going to police, that they had to spend the last 2 or 3 weeks at a community building, whether it's a rec center, whether it's a school, whether anything like that. And so they get to know the people that they're working with. They make that connection. And,
Yes.
and I did build a connection with one of our officers that ended up being in our neighborhood. Once I saw him, he had a couple of our kids pulled over. Funny enough, and I pulled over. He knew right away. I got out the car. I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Man, let me talk to you." He's like, let me talk to you. I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, I'll let our people know and everything like that." But why can't why can't why can't you vote in, and at least in Vegas, we vote our sheriff in. Why can't that sheriff be voted in who's going to talk about community policing reform? And here's what my plan is. And I know it's on channel 1.5 and it's blurry and it's a city council meeting you think where we think nothing's going on, man. But man, that's where it really, really happens. If you can change what comes out your door every day, then you know, it, then that's where the movement really begins. That's where the movement really begins. I was telling my grandfather because he, like I said, born his father his father sharecropper to own their own land in their county in Georgia, right? And I told him he was all worried about Trump and all stuff. I said, don't be worried about Trump. Be worried about his followers. Trump can't do too much to us. I
Right.
said, but the people who follow him to a T, the people who are out here just, I mean, believing and preaching. I said, those to me are the ones that we got to be worried about more than him.
Those are the ones that want to and are willing to pull the trigger
Right, right,
for some
right,
bullshit. For
right.
basically, yeah, for like in Ahmaud Arbery's case, going on a jog.
Yeah. Inspired by him, right? Because those words do matter.
They do.
Those words do matter. Um, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Man,
Um,
yeah. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. Have you seen what they did in Camden, New Jersey?
no, I didn't.
I don't know how long ago this was, but their police department was so corrupt that they dissolved the entire thing, fired everybody, and basically rebuilt it. And the reason it made me think of that was because when you're talking about the community stuff, like one of the things that they implemented was that new officers have to like go out and like from what I was reading, they go door to door and introduce themselves. And it's
Yeah,
like this is how you build cohesion in a community. Like if people that are already looking at officers with like with a lot of bit of anxiety and being like oh shit like what's about to go down, and police officers are looking at everybody else as like a criminal or a threat, like you have a volatile situation. So
right.
if you can break that up a little bit just by people recognizing the officer and the officer recognizing people, that takes down at least some of the fear on both sides.
Mm. No, I 100% agree. Because it's what well one I think I did know. I think I saw it. I love Vice News.
Okay.
I love their programming.
Yeah.
I think Camden at one point had the most video surveillance of any major city in the U.S.
Okay.
Based on their police officer cameras and things like that. When we talk about funding and using funding wisely, right?
Yeah.
They were using all layers on surveillance, so it became this whole privacy thing.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. When we go down to break down barriers, um, it it's funny enough. Here you go. In the best show, in my opinion, the best show ever, right? The Wire, right? When no demotes himself, and he's they showed the scene where he's walking the streets, he's walking the city, he's walking the streets of West Baltimore, everything like that, making connections, waving at people. That can happen.
Mm,
That can happen. And it's difficult, and it's hard, and we just can't be afraid of what may come up. They have to be out of their comfort zone.
yeah.
That's everyone. That's just everyone. And so like we're having this talk, and we gotta come out. All right. So what are some solutions, right? What are hopefully your listeners hear this, and what can we do? I
Mhm.
think it starts with like yourself.
Yes.
We can always check ourselves first and figure out, okay, since we have this extended time, and I know quarantine is lifting, but I don't know everywhere if it's lifting, but we probably should take a little book and read about and learn about ourselves for,
Mhm.
excuse me, first, or learn about ourselves from someone. And then we go ahead and we enact that, we put it into action and action steps.
Yeah.
Um, it's difficult, but I think the further that we get away from the massive headlining people and who are seeking that kind of stuff, I think the better off we'll be. And I just think that that's the way this could happen.
Yeah.
It's going to take work. It's going to take work. We've been more jacked up than we had it all together.
Mhm.
You know, we we
Yeah.
it, we have been. So it's going to take work to completely change that pattern.
And we gotta uh, also realize that it's been hundreds of years of programming to get to where we are now. And there's a lot of people that grow up in situations where you're not going to talk about a timeline of how we got to where we are today, from a racial injustice standpoint, if you're struggling in
Right.
any way, shape, or form. If you're just trying to make ends meet, like you're hoping that that gets taught in school, but then it's just like you leave school and you get a few years removed from the stuff that you learned. Then you start to find out, like if you're paying attention, that a lot of the shit that we learned that was supposed to be our education about
Hmm.
how this country was built, how we got here, why we are where we are now, it's whitewashed, man, because it
Right.
doesn't, like what you were talking about. Oh, the British are coming. Like I didn't know that that was finished out by a black man.
Yeah.
That I'm
Yeah.
36 years old. This is the first time I heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also speaking to something that's larger. The
Yeah.
problem with the education system, um, with how we teach,
Hmm.
with how we teach our kids, and how we teach history. Um, because of course, it's bent on the results subjects, right? Math and science
Hmm.
in English, and but the first thing you ask to see how our kids are doing in school, you ask a social studies question. You're going to ask a historical question. Yes, who, I used to love jaywalking. There was when I asked who's the vice president
Yeah.
on that stuff. You know what I mean? They never asked you a math question. They never asked you anything else, but they're going to come back to that stuff um and to that type of content. And I don't know, the problem with that in school and really teaching is that I think if we change it to where, because I was having this discussion again with my brother too, we have to teach, and a lot of multicultural things are taught in the classroom, right? A lot of it is, but how a lot of standards are written. They're written for the airbrush type, right? They're written they're kind of airbrushed over a lot of things.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
when you teach
It's a
the
lot of memorization.
right. A lot of memorization, a lot of things really quick. When you teach the Civil War, you teach the advantages of both sides. You know how it started. You hit Gettysburg, you hit you hit Antietam and Vicksburg, and you're up out of there, Appomattox, and that's it. You know what I mean? You're moving on to the next. We've condensed it so far, so down. You hit Antietam because you don't win Antietam, you don't get Gettysburg. You got to hit Gettysburg, because that shatters Lee's army. You hit Vicksburg because that splits the Confederacy in two. Then done. Sherman's March 16. You're up out of here.
Mhm.
We don't talk about we don't get a chance to talk about all the great heroes that were were there on the Union side that were minorities. We airbrush. We go very lightly over that,
Yeah.
very lightly over that stuff.
And I know that
And
there's a lot of people that I'm not gonna say a lot of people, but I know that there are people that scoff at Black History Month.
oh,
And if actual history got taught, there wouldn't be a need for a Black History Month. And even
mm,
in that month, it's still not that much. It's like it's enough to make you feel like progress was made. Like
right,
it's enough to give you this idea, because they bring, there's a big focus on Martin Luther King, but at least went from what I remember growing up, there wasn't a whole lot of talk of Malcolm X,
right,
and there wasn't a talk about them coming together, and there wasn't a talking
right,
about like how like why they were murdered,
right,
and it's like so if you look at that situation and you're just like, oh, civil rights movement, great, like I have a dream, awesome, it's bringing people together and then everybody's happy, It's like that's not what happened.
No, no, and a lot of people don't realize Black History Month, the 5 February, is because of Frederick Douglass's birthday. It wasn't even, you know, yeah,
Are you serious?
yeah, yeah, because Frederick Douglass's birthday is in that month.
No.
And it started off as a week, but I think it's good. And I make the joke because I teach a majority Hispanic school or Latino school,
Okay.
and I said, hey, I said, don't be complaining. I said, at least you guys got 30 days. You got September 15, October 15. I said, we got 28.
Yeah. Yeah.
The shortest month of the year.
It is.
Um, I think it's good though. I think it's good to still have that time to recognize, because here's what I say: if we didn't have it, I don't think we would recognize it. I think it would just go. I just think it would go away.
You
I
think
think it
it could
would
be
go away.
taught in a way to where people could understand the steps that were taken?
Absolutely, about of what it took to get it there, because we've only had the month since Reagan. I think Reagan was the one who gave us the month.
Yeah.
Before it was a week. Um, I think to tell Black History Month, to tell the story of African Americans, it's difficult um, if you don't have the proper people in place to tell it and the proper people that are trained to tell it.
That's a
Because you're going to get
very good
those
point.
difficult conversations that are going to happen and difficult questions from kids, and you're going to get the you're going to get well, what makes you an expert on everything like that? I'm like, hey, I'm really not an expert, but here's what I do know. Here's what my path is. So you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
think that's what we have to go back and really, really do. Here we go. We're talking about education system changing, right?
True.
And we're always willing when we got to change our practice all the time,
Mhm.
but we we have to figure out a way to train people on how do you have these type of discussions, how do you teach this history,
Yeah.
and when should you be teaching it, when should you vary that. But with Black History Month, I think if we didn't do have it at all, I don't think we would there would be no one to really celebrate that.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying get rid of Black History
Yeah,
Month. I'm just saying if an actual timeline of history was taught, like
yeah,
where you're not leaving out a bunch of shit and
yeah.
showing how we got here. But I do see your point, because now like that made me think it's just like white classroom, white teachers, and it's just
um
like you can teach so much. You can only teach so much
mhm.
because yeah.
I was fortunate to go to DC a few years ago with a group of kids, and we got into the new museum in the Smithsonian.
Mhm.
And I'm not just saying this as a black man, but it is easily the best museum I've ever been to.
Mhm.
I thought the Holocaust one there was the best one before that, but this one, as a timeline and how it's laid out, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, and every emotion that it brings, no matter who's in there, everybody feels that emotion that museum brings to you. From it goes because it goes from the history of the slave trade to pop culture to sports influence, everything. It's an unbelievable museum on
Mhm.
the Mall in Washington, and I think everyone should try to make an attempt to get to the museum once we kind of resume our normality of everything. But it's unbelievable history of African Americans in America, blacks in America, because um, you know, for some of my friends out there, believe it or not, there's no America without black people. You can't do it. You can't do America without black people. There's just no way. There's too much influence. There's too much culture. We are a part of the American fabric.
Yeah.
Um, it's just as much as anybody, and we don't represent that much of the population. We're only 13% of the
Right.
population.
Yeah.
And so we gotta. I think we just have to embrace that part.
Yeah.
Embrace that.
Yeah. Yeah, man. There's a and thinking about the whole education system too, and thinking about like Black History Month, I'm just thinking about the uproar that you would get from white parents if you start changing the way things are taught. because like that's another hurdle that I could see, that I absolutely see happening during this time frame and wherever we're going in the future. It's just like we got to get to the reality of the situation. We got to get to what happened, but also again going back to that grandpa tells dad tells son. If you have this type of mindset and then kid comes home and it's like, hey, I didn't know about this, and then dad is like, what
Right,
are you teaching them? And it's just
right,
like, oh god, history.
right. So the biggest influence is the home.
Yeah,
It is, and I think at schools we can definitely have that impact. We can
yeah,
definitely have that change because once kids begin to go to school, they're at school longer than what they're at home with. So to really completely change a kid that probably grows up with prejudiced parents
yeah.
and goes to school in a multicultural setting to where every culture, every race, every creed is celebrated,
Mm,
right, and not vilified. I still think it will take a powerful uh, change in that kid's life to completely change that kid over. You know
yeah,
what I mean? That ends up being, I think, that ends up becoming the white kid that doesn't see color, that doesn't see you as that doesn't recognize his prejudice, that doesn't recognize that hey, they're okay from I grew up around black people, all three of them, and I think that ends up becoming that kid,
yeah,
which is okay, and I think that person can, in a sense, be saved. But if the home doesn't have it, it's tough for schools to fight combat the home. It's tough for schools to combat the home. It's like when we talk about our language learners, if they're not speaking English at home, it's going to be tough for us. And they get to America when they're in middle. It's be tough for us to really make that student fully proficient in English if they're not speaking to at home. It's the largest influence.
yeah, yeah. It's very true, man. And I think that's where the biggest change in all of this can take place.
Yeah,
Okay.
people's homes and their hearts.
Homes
People's
in their
homes and their
heart.
hearts.
Yeah, because we see all these issues. You know, we talked about a lot of them, and we see them every day. You just turn on the news,
Yeah,
you can flip back and forth between different news channels and see all the bad things that are going on, and that can get you pumped up and want to get involved, and it can also
mhm,
get you to a point where you're just overwhelmed that you just curl up into a fetal position and cry for a little while.
yeah,
But I think it is important when we see some of these like big issues, these overarching things that we're just like, shit, man, how does this change? And then just taking that energy into our own and see how we're showing up in our own lives around the people that we're around.
right. No, exactly. It's like we started with. It's exhausting, man. It's exhausting. If you have a heart, if you got a pulse, you're getting well. Let's talk that. And I think the visceral reaction is because people are tired. People are exhausted. You know what I mean, Ryan? People, and that's the thing. We're not even talking about. So even like some of uh, the non-blacks, right, that are out there protesting. That, and I think the reason why we saw this is that now we're starting to see that these could have been my friends that I knew somebody's story. You know, now that has been under this kind of punishment. That's been under this. That's suffered under this stuff. Of us not kind of waking up.
Yeah.
I think that's why we have that raw visceral reaction. And and then here you go. The worst thing that could have happened, and the best thing that could happen, is for our president to go and take that photo op, because
Yeah.
because I was watching it live,
Oh,
and I'm sitting
really?
there like, just standing here. Yeah, I said these people just here. Then all of a sudden, you see that happen, right? And you're like, okay, he just did that to take pictures. He didn't talk to any of the ministers that was there. I know I've been to that, exactly where that church is, because I've been over in that area at Lafayette Square. And I know it says, so he just told them to clear out the area because I'm going to walk over and take a picture. Not that I'm going to go out and I'm going to talk to some folks. They're going to be pissed off at me. You know what? You clear away, bring somebody over to talk to me, or let's have a meeting, let's have a discussion.
Yeah.
Not a signing with people standing around you over that. You know what I mean? There was none of that. It was move out the way. I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to take a picture in front of this church with me and everybody, right? And that's crazy. Now's not the time for pictures. Now ain't the time for pictures.
Nah.
You
Like,
know,
yeah. It's like, what do you say to that, man? Like, he gassed American citizens.
I
Like, he
mean,
gassed American citizens for a photo op with an upside down Bible in front of a church that he doesn't go to.
right, right,
So
right. I'm
cheer
waiting
this
on
man.
one of these military leaders to stand up and not obey the order and just take the firing.
Yeah, be like, what the fuck are you gonna do, dude?
No, actually, I'm not going to command my troops to do that. What
Yeah,
happened to that? I'm not going to command my troops to do that. We're not going to do that. That's what I think. That's what. And now they're all coming out afterwards saying, about how terrible it's been. But, well, where were you at when you were giving when these orders were given? Where were you at when these orders?
yeah,
You knew exactly what he was doing there and what was going on there. You could
yeah,
have said no. You could have said no. My troops listen to me and me only. We ain't gonna go through with that order, Mr. President, for a photo op.
yeah,
For a photo op.
yeah.
You know, if you need protection, I said we're here to protect you, but not to come on to brush people or move people out. No, because and the crazy thing about it is, before you used to be able to walk up to the White House. Did you know? Like, and I know it's different. I know we're talking about certain things, but if you wanted to be with the president, you used to be able to knock on the door and walk up the house. And we're talking the 20th century.
Yeah,
We're talking the 20th century used to be able to do
yeah.
that. And now we've digressed so far to where we use the military against our people. Come on. Even hey, here you go. Even Bush commanded the military during Katrina to help people out. Once he got his head out of his behind and got straight, even Bush during Katrina commanded the military. They sent the Army Corps of Engineers down there to get people food and water.
I
Like,
I
like,
never thought I would see another president that would give me enough moment to pause about the shit that he does, like
oh,
like Bush. Like, and maybe that's just because that's within my lifetime and that's what I remember. But I remember some of the shit that he was saying and his presence up there, and I'm just like, this is the dude that's got the keys to the country.
right, right.
Oh, all right.
But whenever politicians use the military, they always call them the American peacekeeping force. We go to occupy a country, right? They're a peacekeeping force. Seriously. And even at that, so even if they use that, our president today couldn't have found a way to do that. He needed to go take a picture. He needed to go take a picture. So he smoked everybody out for him to take a picture.
It just, all this has done is, to me, like, and this is a crazy part of all this.
Mm-hmm.
Police across the country had an opportunity with the spotlight on them for the way that they treat people, had a chance to at least pretend that they gave a fuck. Like, they at least had a chance, and then you see all these protests, and it's like, granted, there were some where the officers were walking with people. I get it. That's what some of the shit that we were talking about, that's what
Right.
should be done. You got to create some sort of community and understanding between law enforcement and people. But pushing down 75-year-old men, pushing down girls, like
Oh
running up
man.
over girls on horses, using your rubber bullets as like a paintball fun time gun
Mm-hmm.
thing where you're shooting at reporters and people for zero reason. Zero reason.
Arresting reporters.
Yes. So you had a chance to get some sort of confidence, to get any type of level of respect or the way that we view you. And you blew it.
Yeah.
You blew it.
Yeah.
The
I think
footage
they
is out there.
did. Yeah. No, I agree.
We all saw what
I
happened
agree.
over the past couple months.
I agree. I agree. And there's going to be more. It's there's going to be more, and the people are going to react. And I think that um, until that change is marched upon City Hall, where it's forced upon them.
Yeah.
I think there is more because right now I think everybody's kind of waiting to say, well, maybe it'll calm down,
Well,
maybe a
it
lot,
already
and
has
it
calmed down.
really hasn't.
No.
No, it hasn't. It
The
hasn't.
hate,
It's good.
the
So,
shit in Atlanta, like with the dude
mhm.
that was in the Wendy's parking lot,
Right,
black men being
right,
found in like the being hung, like that
yeah,
shit to me, like
yeah.
what
It was
in
one in
hell?
California, one in Texas, one in yeah. It's so
Yeah.
and even that which I was telling my brother, you're like, oh my goodness, no one was being careful in the Atlanta Wendy's parking lot thing. You're like, but said at the same time, so why the questioning for 40 minutes? Why the question? You know what I mean? Like you're in control there, right?
Yeah.
you in control of the whole situation.
Yeah.
And so why the question for 40 minutes? Aren't you? What other crimes were happening while you were
Not
questioning for
nothing.
4 minutes? And then you're trying to accuse him of driving. You told him he was in the drive-through. You told him to park his car. So you told him to go drive and park his car somewhere. And then, like, and then you're so poorly trained, right? You're trained on your riot gear, on your assault rifles. You're trained on all that stuff on your gas mask, but you can't detain somebody who's drunk. You can't
Two
detain them.
people.
I would have loved to see them right away. As soon as they open the car door, you knew they already knew what it was. Hey, sir, I'm gonna just put your handcuff. I'm gonna just cuff you real quick before you step out. Put yourself, put yourself between him and the car, right, to make a sandwich. All right, and grab his arm. Go ahead and cuff him. Sit him down. Then question him. So there's no jeopardy. But now you're clowning the guy, asking questions back and forth. You're almost doing the DA's job,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
DA's job instead of doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
Instead of doing what you need to do. Even if they said, all right, here's the thing. I'm gonna have you park your car. I'm gonna wait here. You say you live around the corner. 20 minutes. You need to be back with your wife, or else I'm having your car towed. And let that be it. I guarantee those guys today, those guys are facing those charges today. Those cops. Any cop that's saying they would not trade, they would trade a murder charge for towing a guy's car is lying. If they wish they would have just towed the man's car.
Yep.
Say, all right, man, go ahead, walk on. You need to be back in 20 minutes, or else I'm towing your car.
Yeah.
Guarantee, guarantee any cop that was in those shoes would do that. Would do that. But they didn't. After he blew and after they questioned for forever, they allowed that to me, they allowed that situation to happen.
Yeah, because if you're gonna sit there and in question and everything for like 20 minutes and then you decide to put somebody in cuffs, it's like,
Right.
yo, I've been trying to comply this whole time. Like, why? Like,
Right.
why are you guys doing this? Why are you guys doing this?
If that was me, it would have been 10 minutes into it. Hey, I need you guys you got all my information. Hey, either can we scratch a ticket? Can we do something else? Can we, what is happening? What is going to happen? I'm gonna lose my patience at 40 minutes.
Yeah.
At 40 minutes, if you got me hemmed up over something that they knew what they were going to do from the get go, with trying to arrest them.
Yeah.
Um, so what are you doing? And if you know how to write, if you know how to write, you know how to get the charges on them that you wanted to get.
Yeah.
Let there be a should that cost him in his life. It should have never escalated to that point. How are you that poorly trained? You don't, even in tactics and wrestling or jiu-jitsu, to where you let a guy get a hold of your taser, fight the handcuffs off of you, and then you're running. Come on.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You know, and, yeah,
And
and I agree with you. They had that chance. They had that chance. They had
yeah.
a chance.
Yeah.
You
And
know.
this is where we get the frustrating part where, you got certain responses that are going to say, well, you weren't there, you don't know what those officers were going through. And it's just
Right.
like, I get that. I get it. Sure. I don't know what they went through. I don't know what was going through their mind, but how it played out shows that they probably shouldn't have been there. It
Shouldn't have been
shows that
stopped.
they don't have the right training and preparation for this type of thing. Of course, I'm on the outside looking in. Maybe I'm speaking on this from an ignorant place, but at the same time, it's just like, also, if the taser isn't a deadly thing, why are you using a deadly weapon in response to it? So if you were going to tase this man to try to subdue him, he's running away. I don't give a fuck if he points the taser at you or not. He doesn't have your gun.
Right. We've
So
all seen, yeah, yeah. We've all seen the drunk guy never get away on cops. We've all
yeah,
seen that.
yeah. And we've also seen videos. Like I just remember this. I remember watching this video of this white dude wrestling with two cops
Oh
and
yeah. Oh
gets
yeah.
gets in the police cruiser and drives away. And
Yeah.
they didn't pull out one weapon.
Yeah. What about the kid at Stoneman Douglas? I mean, he was at Wendy's, apprehended. What about Dylan Roof in South Carolina? He was handcuffed in front and fed. You know what I mean? There's that too.
And taken
And
to Burger
I know people who say that, right. And I know people who say that, well, you weren't there, you don't know the situation. Being the cop is a tough job. Well, guess what? Welcome. This is what you signed up for.
Yep.
This is what you signed up for. Because, and here's the thing, Blue Lives Matter, right?
Mhm.
Yes, they do. But guess what? You can not be a blue life anytime you want. I cannot be vote out of this black skin. I can't do that. So yes, Blue Lives Matter. Yes, it's a tough job. Welcome to the world of where everybody's job is tough.
Yeah.
Hey, here you go. You weren't there, so you didn't know not to steal money with Enron, right? Because everybody was doing it. You weren't there, so it's a tough job to be a doctor. So someone died on my operating table. Yeah, so we all get that, but that doesn't give you immunity to screw stuff
Right.
up. It doesn't give you
Right.
immunity to screw stuff up. You're right. I wasn't there. I shouldn't have punched a kid in the face at my high school, but you know what? It's tough. Yeah, it's tough.
Right. Yeah. That would never.
I don't I don't get to haul off and sock a kid that's cussing me out or parents that are cussing me out. I
No.
have to take it. Granted, it sucks that that's part of the job, but guess what? The community I serve, who struggles with authority figures, that's how what their reaction is going to be. So it's my job then to say, all right, well, let's just take it on for the action and what the school's policy is and what we stand for this and how we can get better all together.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ever expect our cops to do that. Oh, it's a tough job. There's thousands of criminals out there, so this, that, and the other. No, they can be better. They can be better.
Yeah. Why is that? Why is that something that we don't want? Why is that something that some people don't want? Like, don't you want better trained law enforcement?
Right. Why is there this immunity? They're people. They're people who could, and that's they're everyday ordinary citizens.
Yes. Yeah. They just chose that profession.
You can go out and be one. Yeah, you can go out and be one. Everybody can go out and be one. Yeah. If we want you to be better, we want you to do a good job.
Yeah.
Not neglect, or go with anything, go into it blind, not being even aware of what you should be doing. Not a power trip, not with a racist bone in your body, just go in it and enforce the law and help your community be better. Because that's the other side of it too. Because it's not as though somebody is a criminal and they go and they live in another town. Those criminals, whenever they get done serving their sentence or getting their fines, they go back and they live in the same community where they're from. They don't just move and skip town to town to town and terrorize every town. So now as a cop, you've been a cop for 5-10 years, you've been arrested a guy. What have you done to make this dude better or this young lady better?
Mm.
Keep them out of the criminal stuff.
Yeah. And this is where the reallocation of funds could come into play, where they could be put into programs to keep people out of jail. But privatized prisons are a business.
Oh, yeah.
So, it's there are a lot.
Starts as juveniles. I see it
100%.
all the time.
Yeah.
I see it all the time.
Dude, I volunteer for this organization here in San Diego called Boys to Men Mentoring Network.
Mm,
And, we work, like we mentor at-risk youth, young
hmm.
boys that
Cool.
don't have a father figure around, or their home life isn't the best. And it's just like, through my time working with them, talking with them, seeing how some of these kids get treated, it's just like, the pipeline is real. The
Yeah.
pipeline is real from school to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's messed up.
I can draw lines to several instances where I've had kids that have not finished and have gone out and committed crimes that were going to be life sentences. One that's pending now from an incident that happened here during the protest. That had nothing during the protest, but I'm not supposed to speak about it because that's what our legal department told us.
Yeah.
But if you look up the incident that happened with a cop or the police officer getting shot in the face, I know that kid. And I say kid, but in he's 20.
Yeah.
That's a kid, right?
Yeah, he's
That's
a
a
kid.
kid.
Yeah.
I know by law that that's a man, but at 20 years old, heaven forbid that, that we wouldn't do anything different than we were at 20 than we are now in our mid 30s,
Yeah.
that were kiddish things.
Yeah.
Um, and other instances where, I had a hold of when they were kids, I had a hold of them in my hand like this and trying to tell them and trying to tell them and trying to tell them and tell them that, that the world is not going to cut you any breaks and it sucks, but that's what it is. So you got to try to be, to walk the righteous path.
Yeah.
And, and they did not finish high school and then boom, no lie. 2 years after this kid dropped out, and the other ones are probably 2 years, 2 years, 2 years afterwards. Committed crimes where they're going to be done. And the crazy thing is that even if it is a short-term sentence, they're done.
Yep.
They're
Yep.
done.
Yeah.
They're done because
They're already in the system at that point.
yeah, because how we treat felons,
Yep.
how we are we are I love it because I'm a Christian, I'm a man of faith, and I go to church, and I'm a believer. But I think sometimes some of the worst forgivers are Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the worst people forgiving are Christians. We don't forgive them. We don't
Yeah.
forgive them. You don't even. We don't even. The funny thing is, we don't even know them. We don't. Sometimes we don't even know these people that commit crimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not talking about the most heinous crimes. I'm not talking Ted Bundy here.
Yeah.
But we don't know these people that commit crimes or commit murders. But we don't want to know why, and we
Right.
don't want to forgive them. We
Right.
say, "Oh, see, here we go. This is what I thought."
Yeah. Yeah. So the
I
person that goes and
don't
commits the
forgive them.
crime and they do their time and they come back out, their debt should be paid to society, right? And it's
Right.
like, why are you like, you can't, if that's the stance you're going to take, you got to take that stance. Like, if they do their
Yeah.
time, you can't go, well, we can't trust them now. No, according to you,
Mm,
you go and they
yeah.
do their time, they're out. You should they've paid their debt.
Yeah.
Allow
Especially a
them to be part
victimless
of
crime.
society.
Especially a victimless crime.
Yeah,
There's no victim in the crime.
for
I don't care.
real, man.
Even a knucklehead that steals $70 from 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
7-Eleven made that money back the exact hour, the next hour had it left. So I get it. Yeah, I get it. That we don't want people robbing 7-Eleven, but 7-Eleven will be all right.
yeah,
I'm not excusing it, but 7-Eleven will be all right. That
yeah.
is a victimless crime. But if you do it with a pistol, I say you're going to be done. You're
Mhm.
going to be done.
Dude,
You're going to be done.
there's a lot of people sitting in jail right now in California that haven't been convicted of shit.
Yeah.
It's just because they can't afford bail.
Yeah.
It's the bail system that's in place. It's just like a lot of these kids getting picked up for misdemeanors and shit, and just because they can't afford bail, they just got to sit.
Yeah.
So you're getting your freedom
It's,
taken away when you haven't been proven guilty of anything.
right. And also because you can't afford a proper defense. That's
Correct.
the next thing. You know what I mean? That's the next thing. So, and that's just nuts to me. And then when they are released for quote unquote time served and maybe convicted for time served, then they got to pay court fees.
Yep. Yep.
Pay court fees,
Yeah.
for a no contest, more than likely, or a guilty plea. No contest or guilty plea.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah. Just take the guilty plea. We'll let you go. But by the way, the next time we pick you up, the sentence is going to be more harsh.
right, right. So there you go. And then that's how we keep this cycle going.
Yep.
That's how
And we're going to pull you
we
over and we're going to stop you for nothing. And we're going to try that way that we can hope that you have been somebody that's been in the system and we can fuck with you more.
yeah, yeah. We'll send you right back. You know where you're going right back.
Yep.
Going right back.
How do you
And
progress when
yeah,
that system that's in place,
yeah, yeah. We have to, yeah. Like I said, even when because I was going back to when I was telling our kids on the March for Our Lives and everyone was doing the walkout. I was telling our kids, I said, hey, that's cool you guys are doing that. That walkout does nothing. So walk your butts to City Hall. Said find your congresspersons, because find your congressperson. I said, who are they? Find their offices and walk your tails there. I said, walk there.
Yeah.
I don't care how far it is. You walk there and you demand a meeting for them to legislate gun reform. If that's what you really want to argue, that's what you want to argue and change. Have them go down there, legislate gun reform. Every politician in Las Vegas, they have an office that's downtown, the Vegas. So that's a 5 mile walk. It's a 5 mile walk. Get your good shoes on and walk your butts down there to do that kind of change. And I think that's what we have to get to, and we have to demand that from our people and our leaders
Yeah.
to do. It starts here. It starts locally.
Yeah.
Then Washington will fix it. Then Washington will get fixed and turned around. But but we have to start. We have to start there.
Yeah, man.
See what that'll change our community.
I think that's probably a good place to start wrapping this thing up with a place to start, and like
Yeah.
just go down and visit some people. I think I'm probably going to be doing that soon because I've been looking up some people's names in the area here. I think I'm going to try to get some local officials on some podcasts. We'll see if they'll be comfortable enough to chat in this climate.
I hope so, because I think a lot of them. I don't know if we talk to them enough. You know what I mean? I think I hope they will, engage you into some discussion and some what things are going to be coming up, new, that they're going to be proposing when
Yes.
legislation time does come around. Because it's weird living in Nevada. We have a legislative session every other year. Our legislatures only go and have a chance to implement policy at the state level every other year, unless the governor calls a special session. Right. It's weird, right?
You can only
So
change once every 2 years.
once every 2 years, man. That's
Wow, man.
crazy, right?
Yeah, it's these checks and balances that are kind of pointless. It's like, what's the progression? Like, who do I need to send this to? Okay, you look it over, then you send it to this person to look it over, send it to this person to look over. It shouldn't take 2 years.
Right. And
If it makes sense, why
what
aren't we doing this?
that's back when Nevada was a tiny state where, where the strip was probably where it wasn't a strip, Las Vegas Strip, and we didn't have 2.5 million people living in Clark County. Oh, okay. Okay. Right. Every 2 years, us in one small office building, we could meet. But
Yeah,
we've grown so much. We've grown so much in the two major cities that we have,
yeah,
and some of the issues have multiplied so much. It's time we look at that. Can we get you guys to meet more than every other year to
yeah,
decide state policy? We should be able to get that.
yeah,
So I think that's where it starts, and especially with our city. Like I said, I live in a nice area. I'm lucky with our city council person. All he does is build parks. It seems like that's all he does with zoning. But he also needs to listen to the people, and we need to go down and get in front of their face and say, "Hey, that's enough." Vegas is home to the most liquor stores I've ever seen in my life. So we have plenty of liquor stores, plenty of liquor stores. We'll take another park, or you know
yeah.
what? We'll take a community center.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
like a community center, to where we could have any and everybody here. It doesn't just have to be, in a bad neighborhood. We'll take a community center in our good neighborhood,
Yeah.
you know, to where give place, give kids a place to go,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So,
Something to do, man.
uh,
Something to do
I
that's
appreciate you having me.
yeah. Well, thank you for coming on, man. It's been a while since I've seen you, man. Like,
Yeah,
what was it, a couple years ago in Vegas,
yeah,
but yeah, that's yeah, it was good talking with you, man.
yeah.
I wish you nothing but the best with you and your fam. And
You too. Good luck. Continued success with your podcast.
well, thanks, man.
Continued success with that. That's really cool. Really, really cool.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm doing my best, man. Doing my best.
Yeah, all right. Well, you keep enjoying that beautiful weather out there. It got up to like 107 here today.
Oh, don't worry, I will, man. I'll go out and smile. I'll just take it all in for a couple extra weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Hey, anytime, man, if you want me to come back on. Right now I'm out of school. So anytime is good time.
Oh yeah, man. I got another collaboration that I'm gonna be doing with a friend, so I might have to bring you on that one here soon.
Anytime.
But yeah, man.
Anytime.
Again, it was good talking with you, Tom, and yeah, hope you enjoyed it, people. We
We'll
are.
talk to you soon.
Yeah, we'll see you.